Evening. I would like to convene this regular meeting of the City Council at 6:10. Would everyone please rise and join with me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda this evening is the agenda. Councilor Nodell.
President Wright, I move we adopt the agenda as presented.
Unbelievable.
Second.
Unheard of.
Second.
It has been moved. The agenda has been moved by Councilor Nodell, seconded by Councilor Busher. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Item number 2 is a communication from Brookfield and Don Sinex. I have not seen Mr. Sinex. So, okay, so we would invite the Brookfield team up. I think it's going to be Mr. Martin, Chase Martin, who is Senior Vice President of Development for Mixed Use, and you have a number of team from Brookfield here also, if you want to identify them and then tell us whatever you can tell us.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you very much for having us here. As stated, I'm Senior Vice President.
Mr. Martin, I do have to have you use the microphone because Channel 17 is filming and we need to be able to hear you, and Channel 17 needs to be able to hear you. So we also appreciate your being here, and we all are looking forward to whatever you have to tell us, and I know the public also is looking forward to hearing as much as you can tell us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us. With me this evening is...
and I apologize again. You do need to pull the microphone in fairly close.
We'll get it right. It's
Ridiculous.
Is that working?
You're pretty close.
You want to eat it?
Yeah.
Check. Is it working? Okay, great. Thank you so much for having us here. With me this evening is Will Vogel, Senior Vice President of Development, who will be our project lead. Eric Denenberg, who's Senior Vice President from Brookfield Properties Retail, and Chelsea Ziegelbaum is a Development Associate as a part of our development team. So I just want to read a quick statement, and then we can answer some questions regarding the project. The idea of this was to give you all an update and introduce ourselves to you from the Brookfield perspective. So. I am here representing the Burlington Town Center partnership between Brookfield and Devonwood. For those unfamiliar with Brookfield Properties ranks among the largest real estate companies in the United States with extensive development and operating portfolio experience in retail, office, multifamily, parking, and other assets. Totaling a substantial amount of our portfolio in the United States. And so we manage those assets for Brookfield. We've been invited here to provide a project status update for City Place, and we'd like to thank you all for that opportunity. To leverage our operating platform to ensure the project's success, our role of investor and owner has evolved. We are now involved in the day-to-day operation and development operation of Burlington Town Center's transformation into City Place Burlington. Devonwood remains a valued partner. We will continue that vision. We will continue the vision that City Place Burlington will reinvigorate downtown, create new opportunities, and will positively impact the community. We want to assure the community that the plans for City Place Burlington are moving forward. Brookfield Properties remains committed to this important project. We are invested in this community. We've already begun working in disciplines across our platform to move the project forward. While we are making great strides, there's still a lot to do. This is a complex project with multiple uses. Thus, our team is systematically reviewing the various components of the project from construction through to operations to ensure that we have a plan for success. We continue to work towards the goal of breaking ground this spring. Finally, I'd like to share that University of Vermont Medical Center remains a vital part of this project. We recently met with UVMC's leadership, and we continue to work with them to ensure that they will be an anchor of City Place Burlington. This is a renowned academic medical institution, and it's important to Burlington and Burlington's history, so it only makes sense that they would be a part of this transformative project. We appreciate the patience of the community. We thank everyone for their understanding. We look forward to bringing this pivotal project to fruition. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Martin, and again, welcome to Burlington. We appreciate very much your being here tonight and the team. Do we want to hear from Councilor Mason? Oh, yes, Councilor Mason. We do have to have Councilor Hartnett, who's out of town, is going to join us, so we need to take a moment to have him brought aboard here. And then, do we want to hear from the city team briefly before we take questions from Mr. Martin?
It's up to you.
Is it okay to take questions and then bring you up after for a few minutes? Okay. And let me wait till we get Councilor Hartnett on.
Hi, Dave. You're joining the council, okay? Thank you.
Okay, we have Councilor Hartnett online. Welcome, Councilor Hartnett. And let me just to start this out. So councilors will open it up for a few questions for Mr. Martin. The questions have to be around what Mr. Martin has just shared with the statement that he just made. If there are questions dealing with tenants, securing financing, timelines, or other proprietary information, then those questions really need to wait for executive session. So the questions have to be pretty general about the statement that we just heard from Mr. Martin. So we'll start it off with Councilor Pine.
I'll try and stay within those rules, and you can let me know if it's not appropriate. But I think the community, the council, and the community at large has begun to have a little confidence shaken over the project. I think that's fair to say. I don't think that would be anything confidential. It's all over the place. I think we'd like to hear from you as assurance that not only is Brookfield and Devonwood all in, but that you have fundamental confidence in the development plan that you put together, and that it's still a viable plan the way you put it together, and that this market can still absorb that amount of both retail and office, and I think residential would be helpful as well. Just talk generally about that. I think that's okay.
I think, Mr. Martin, you can certainly, if you can answer that. If the question goes beyond something that you can talk about, you can just let us know.
Sure. So we think the plan is appropriate. We think it is the perfect project for this market. We liked it when we initially made the investment, and we think the project that is of the size, scale, and magnitude is exactly what Burlington really needs. So we think that it is appropriately sized. We think that the retail environment is fantastic. It will be a complement to the vertical uses that we have there. The office component is with UVMC as an anchor really will justify really anchor the overall project, to use the term multiple times, anchor. And the multifamily, I think there's really nothing like it in the market right now. So it is a point of differentiation and a product that I think will stand alone. We, again, in our initial underwriting and looking at this asset, we liked it at the time. We really liked Burlington as a market. And we liked this vision that was put in place. So that's what we bought into, and that's what we're committed to. So hopefully that answers the question, but we absolutely, there has not been any change in vision. We are looking at how we look at subsequent phases right now, how we can continue to build on what this proposed first phase is, and we're still excited about it.
Thank you, Councilor Pine. Councilor Tracy, and then Councilor Busher.
Thank you, President Wright. One of the things that I'm continually hearing from the public is just a general frustration about not knowing what's going on with the project. We really haven't heard too much from Brookfield or Mr. Sinix himself, and I think that's the subject of continually growing frustration here in Burlington. What are you prepared to do to better communicate with the public and keep them more regularly informed about the updates of this project that is so crucial to our city?
So hopefully coming here tonight, when we were asked to come here, we were excited about coming here. So we hope to deliver regular updates on the project, and I think all we can do is start with today with that communication. So that was, again, hopefully by us being here. We recognize that Brookfield has not been a part of that external communication as of today. I think this is our first time sitting in front of you all. And we hope to give more recent updates or more regular updates as people have questions. So really the progress of the project will be once we start to get going. So I think that's what everyone is wanting to know. So hopefully this update gives you a little bit more insight as to Brookfield's involvement and the status of the project.
Thank you, Councilor Tracy. And Mr. Martin, again, you have to pull that microphone even a little closer. I'm having trouble hearing. Pull it in as close as possible. Again, just to follow up just a little bit on that, and can we expect, I appreciate that we're going to get more updates from you, because as Councilor Tracy said, that has been an issue. Will we expect to be hearing more from you, from Brookfield representatives now, more so than Mr. Sinix in the future, or is that changed in any way?
So Devin Wood and Mr. Sinix remain partners in this project, so we are folding into the development and operating flow of information and working with them. We are partners, so
okay.
we are now engaged. We are fully engaged in the day-to-day operations, and our team is working hand in glove to get up to speed and leveraging our expertise in order to make sure this project is a reality. So that communication will more likely be coming from Brookfield, but we are, right now, all focus is getting this project up and running.
Great, thank you. Councilor Busher?
Yes, thank you. You referenced your expertise. You just made reference to that. And can you refresh my memory of if you as an entity have done a project like this in an urban but really a rural setting, because we're kind of an anomaly. I mean, we're in a very rural state, and yet we're a little urban core, but some people would really call us a town if we were in another big city. So do you have expertise or familiarity with this kind of project in a setting like this?
So every city is unique, and I wouldn't dare to compare Burlington to another city, but I understand exactly what you're asking and what your question is. So I think without getting specific on the nuances of the town, I would certainly say yes, we have. Our development expertise is all across North America, small towns, large cities, truly running the gamut. Our development team, specifically, and those sitting behind me and with me here this evening, also have development experience in urban settings with public-private partnerships, and yes, we are very familiar with these types of projects. All the cities have little changes and little differences, and each is their own. These projects are all unique, so this project we're excited about. We've been excited about Burlington since day one, so hopefully that answers your question. But we recognize the things that we need to do to focus on Burlington. We recognize that very early on by having a local development partner. But we're now leveraging our platform and our experience across the country, our resources across the country, and our resources in every single asset class to make sure that this project is a success.
And I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Busher. Councilor Paul?
Thank you, and thank you so much for being here. I think I think it means a lot not only to those of us that are here tonight, but also to the citizens of Burlington that you are here. So thank you. The question that I had is, you had said in the opening remarks that you had said Brookfield remains a valuable partner. Now, my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that Brookfield is the 51% owner of this project. Is that right?
We are.
Okay, which means that Devonwood, as the only other partner, is the 49% owner, right? So who is the managing partner in this project? Who really is the face of this project? Are you now taking over a lot of the management responsibilities of the project, or is that still Devonwood?
So I don't know if this is an executive session type of question or not.
City Attorney Blackwood, is it strictly up to Mr. Martin?
I think if he believes that it involves proprietary information or information that would put you at disadvantage in the marketplace, you should say so, and I would then encourage you all, I see him nodding that he believes it would put them at a disadvantage, that you consider making that finding and putting this as an executive session topic.
Is that correct, Mr. Martin?
Yes, I think so. And maybe in the nature of the question, just talking about percentage ownership and things like that.
Well, I mean, that's in the, I think that's actually public. I mean, you just said that, so it's public information because you just said it. So, and I think that has been known for some time. But I'll ask the other question that I had later in executive session. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Paul.
Thank you, sir.
Councilor Nodell.
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to just add my thanks to those of others for being here tonight, and like others, we look forward to more visits and more updates. It's good that the project has such a strong partner with national and international experience with projects like this. At the same time, we want to just make sure that this project is going to bring as many local jobs and build up local employment. And I just wanted to kind of just get your confirmation that that's still the plan.
Absolutely. The projects of this size and scale are huge economic drivers, both during construction and on an ongoing basis. So UVMC's, their consolidation and their jobs in downtown is a large focus, but the construction jobs that will be created here are numerous, and it's a unique construction as well. So that will increase trades, it will increase attraction to the city, and Brookfield's involvement and further involvement is, I think, just going to draw more attention to Burlington.
Thank you, Councilor Nodell. Councilor Dean.
Thank you, President Wright. Thank you, Mr. Martin, for being here. I have a question regarding, obviously we have some significant work to complete the construction of this phase of the project in the next 2 to 2.5 years. What is Brookfield's involvement ongoing beyond that time? Do you stay involved with the properties and management of those properties, or is this something that you develop and then move away from?
So we will remain involved. We are going to leverage our operating expertise across all uses, and that includes management of those assets as long as we own the asset.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dean. Other city councilors with questions? Councilor Mason.
Thank you, President Wright. Without getting into timing or disclosing anything confidential, could you sort of tell us exactly what it is you're doing right now? I mean, I think there's some uncertainty as to exactly what the process that's going on right now.
So as I mentioned in our statement, what we are doing is systematically going through the project, both on construction and operating side, and getting up to speed. We have now started to take this active role in the day-to-day operations of the business, the development, as well as the operation. And as I mentioned, we have an operating platform that has hundreds of thousands of residential units, millions of square feet of office, millions of square feet of retail, and we're going to each one of those operating sectors right now, looking at the efficiencies of operations, method of construction, to make sure that we continue to maximize this plan. So that is a lot of the work that we have been doing to make sure that this project is successful.
Can I just ask to follow up the use of the term "we"? Who is we? Is we Brookfield? Is we the partnership? Who is we?
We Brookfield. Everything that I just mentioned to you is all things that we're doing right now. We, as the partnership, are doing it. We Brookfield have all those operating arms, and we are doing it on behalf of the partnership.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mason. Councilor Roof.
Thank you, President Wright. Thank you for being here. My question is about timing, and this might get into executive session, so just let me know and we can put it off for a little bit. You had mentioned that the goal is to break ground in the spring. What's your, and through this planning process, what would the expectation be for a completion date? You had also mentioned considering a phasing approach, and what would that mean for potential project completion, if you could talk about that.
Let me touch base on the statement of the goal of breaking ground this spring, and then maybe we save the rest for the executive session. But we want to make sure this project moves forward as quickly as it possibly can. It's the nature of our business. We need to make sure things go and go in an efficient and timely manner. So all of our resources right now are focused on that.
Still having a little trouble hearing you.
It's getting dangerously close. So we are working very hard and diligently to make sure that we can get going as quickly as possible. So I don't know how to, did we get that?
If that's as much as you can say.
If that's what you're comfortable, if
yeah.
that's what you're comfortable in saying, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roof. Councilor Jang.
Sorry for coming late, and I know it's because it's cold. You have to speak up a little bit so we can hear you. Thank you for being here. And my question is very simple. Maybe I came late because I was checking in with Ben Gillis, with another city council candidate, Mohammed Jafar. But my question to you is this. Looks like the project will start in the spring, right? But in terms of percentage, can you tell us in terms of percentage, how likely is it's going to happen? 80%, 70, or 50 or less?
So I can't put a percentage to it. We want to make sure that we are working towards starting as soon as possible. So I think everything that we're doing is working towards that end right now. So every bit of our effort, every bit of our resources that's on this project is working towards getting this thing started as soon as possible. So again, I also don't want to get up here and I make certain statements that when we revisit or we talk again, we're talking about which percentages at the time. I just want you to know what we're doing, and that was really the goal of this, or at least what I understand the goal of this to be, which was to provide an update in how we're doing it and what we're doing. So that's our focus.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, you have a goal, but no guarantee.
We are every bit of our time and effort is going towards
Thank you.
that work right now.
Thank you. And this.
Dave, were you trying to get in the queue?
Okay.
Yeah, Dave, sorry. Hold on one sec, and then we'll come to you.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Do you want to? Okay, we'll go to Councilor Hartnett and then to the mayor.
Dave, you're in. Oh, you.
I hope you guys can hear me. President Wright, the connection's not great, but I heard Councilor Paul's question about who's taking the lead here. Was that question answered? If it was, I didn't hear it, but maybe it wasn't.
Mr. Martin did answer that. I mean, did you want to? I think he said it. There had to be an executive session.
Okay, that's fine. My question is regards to what type of commitment will we see from Devonwood and Brookfield in regards to the small local businesses around the town center site that have been really kind of suffering here over the period of time, and what type of commitment can we see from these guys to make sure that working with the city that we can, try to make a difference and help these small businesses out?
So we're still getting up to speed on everything that has been happening and will be happening. Look, this project is meant to be a catalyst for downtown. It's meant to be an economic booster and boost for all of the surrounding businesses. So we have seen it firsthand in other developments that projects like these create so much attention as well as visitation and business once they are up and running. So I have no question that the businesses surrounding this project will benefit. And outside of that, I really can't comment on specifics of the businesses. Just I'm not familiar at this point.
I'm all set, Chip.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Hartnett. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, President Wright. I think it's actually a good segue to the city team presentation, in that one of the elements of this agreement from the beginning has been that the project would provide some resources to CEDO to help with some of the impacts of and disruptions of construction. We also have gotten additional payments, which we take as good faith signs of Brookfield and the project's commitment this holiday season for downtown promotion to help local businesses, and for assistance with a more aggressive parking promotion effort than we've done for many years. So we have a city team here to give an update on how that various work, how what we're able to do with that, and the impact of that. And that's what Chapin, the three directors are here to speak to when you're ready, President Wright.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will bring the city team up. Any other burning question for Mr. Martin before we bring up the city team for a few comments and then go into executive session? Hearing none. One last, I will. So I think then, if I'm correct, the message for the public here that you said is that Brookfield is strongly behind this project, is very committed to the project.
We are.
And I think I heard you say that the timeline, I know we can't get too far into timelines, but that you do expect to commence in the spring with moving forward with pouring of the foundation? We are. To reiterate, Brookfield is committed to this project. Brookfield Properties is committed to this project, and we are working towards the goal of breaking ground in this spring. So every resource that we have is working towards that. Thank you, Mr. Martin. I appreciate that. And again, we appreciate very much your being here tonight to speak to the council and to the public and the administration. And with that, we will call up the city team for a few comments, and then we'll move into executive session. Sounds good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Spencer, DPW Director, and David White, also interim with CEDO as well.
And that is
CEDO
the hat
planning
that I wear this evening. Thank you, Council President. Thank you for having us. Chapin and I are going to just speak briefly to how some previous investments that have resulted as a result of this project have been spent, and their successes over the course of particularly the holiday season. The partnership, Brookfield-Devonwood partnership, provided the city with funding for holiday marketing and parking promotions, and Chapin can speak to some of that, as well as through the development agreement, there were funds that were advanced in support of local businesses, and I'll speak to that part. So.
Great. Three numbers for you. Thanks to the partnership with City Place Burlington, they provided a $72,000 contribution to our holiday parking promotion. We've had a promotion in years past. This was a much greater and more robust effort thanks to this funding. We were able to provide 4 hours of free parking at the Lakeview and College Street Garage from late November through to the end of December. That was used by 7,100 parkers. We also provided 2 hours free on street through the Park Mobile app from the same time period, and that was used by 6,361 users. And then in addition to that, we also reached out to the businesses downtown, the small businesses, to provide for the retail and restaurant establishments free all-day parking for employees in the Lakeview and College garages. And that was used 359 times. So we were pleased to coordinate with the Burlington Business Association, Church Street Marketplace, and our team and City Place to offer these services. In addition, there was a lot of marketing and signage that was put up around town and advertising to get the word out about these benefits.
So to that point, about $50,000 was spent pre-holidays and through the holidays for the promotion of that free parking and those parking alternatives, not just for visitors to the downtown during the holiday season, but also there were parking promotions for downtown employees so that they had alternatives that didn't take away prime parking spaces. I mentioned in addition to that, but not explicitly part of the holiday parking and marketing package, as part of the development agreement, there was $100,000 that was advanced for business assistance. That money has been provided to the city, and we are working with the Church Street Marketplace to identify what is the best use of that money going forward, particularly given the delay and needing a better feel for the construction timelines. We're waiting to get information back on the success of the holiday season that the Church Street Marketplace undertakes every year, typically by around the end of this month, beginning of next month. They should have that information. And then understanding that the businesses overwhelmingly were interested in supporting promotional events as well as wayfinding and broader marketing. The Church Street Marketplace is finalizing their retail promotion calendar for the summer. And we want to be sure to tie in our business support with what those merchants want and feel would be most beneficial. And that's timing of understanding that calendar will be sometime next month. With that information, then we'll put together a more detailed plan how to spend that money. Additional funding has been provided to the city as reimbursement of our ongoing legal and consulting fees due to the project delay.
Thank you. Councilor Busher, we want to get into executive session pretty quickly, but Councilor Busher, you have a question?
I just want to, thank you, David. Did you say any of that money went to the small businesses around? I thought these were all parking promotions and et cetera, but to the point that Councilor Hartnett raised, I just wanted to know if there was any benefit to the buildings around where the development is going to occur, and was there?
To my knowledge, there is no money that has been or is necessarily specifically planned to go to individual businesses, but it's about how do we help promote downtown events and activities. I may be wrong in that, and I'll look to the mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
And just, remembering that David's new in this role, I mean, that was the decision to do that came from conversations CEDO has had over the last year, that the best way to help the businesses, this was an overwhelming sense from the business community, was that that parking and general promotion of the downtown was the way, as opposed to like direct funding of specific businesses, was the feedback that we got from the business community about the best way to help.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Busher. Are we ready for a motion? Thank you, Mr. White and Mr. Spencer, for that report. Councilor Mason.
Councilor Hartnett, do you have something before I make a motion?
No, I'm all set.
Thank you, President Wright. I'd like to request a specific finding that premature public knowledge would place Brookfield and Devonwood at a substantial disadvantage relating to negotiations with tenants, ability to obtain financing, and disclosure of proprietary information.
That is a motion on the findings by Councilor Mason, seconded by Councilor Nodell. Any discussion? All those in favor of the findings, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimous.
No, it doesn't.
Councilor Tracy is opposed to the findings. Councilor Mason, motion now on going into executive session based on the findings.
Thank you, President Wright. Based on that finding, I would like to make a motion to go into executive session, and I'm going to need some help with the list of attendees, but my assumption is we will have Richard Hessler, Eileen Blackwood from the City Attorney's Office, Beth Anderson from the CAO's office, Attorney Farkas, External Counsel, Mr. Glassberg, all on our team. Trying to think who else. David White, Mr. Spencer, and then I don't know who is on the other, on the
President Wright, I'd just like
Brookfield team.
One second. I will get you just 1 second.
So just to note, I'll need help with, other than Mr. Martin, who on the Brookfield team will be staying in the room. All of the 3 individuals behind you?
Everyone with the team from Brookfield will be staying, correct? Okay. And did we cover everyone?
Well, no, mayor, staff.
Have we got everybody?
Jeffrey Glassberg, you got?
We got him.
We said him, yes. Okay.
So I believe that is everyone.
Okay. So before we have the vote and go into executive session, Councilor Dean?
Yes, I just want to remind the council that due to a professional conflict of interest, I remain recused on this issue. So I will not be part of this session.
So Councilor Dean will not participate and is recused from this issue. And motion is seconded by Councilor Shannon to go into executive session. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Councilor Tracy is the one no vote for recording that to go into executive session. City councilors, please take their seats. We are back from executive session, and the next item on our agenda is the public forum. I do want to make clear that we have public hearings after the public forum. The public forum right now is to speak on any general topic. After that, we have public hearings on all the charter changes, which there are 3 of, which is the Downtown Improvement District, permit reform, and the business personal property tax charter change. So if you want to speak in any of those public hearings, you would want to wait until the end of this regular public forum. So I believe at this time I only have 1 person sign up for the regular public forum tonight, so I will open the public forum up at 7:35, and Ron Ruloff is the first and only speaker at this point in the regular public forum. Good evening, Mr. Ruloff, and welcome.
Good evening, President Wright. Good evening. I'm Ron Ruloff. I live at Cathedral Square, 3 Cathedral Square, a property owned by Cathedral Square Corporation. I have started I'm provisional chair of the Tenants Council, which I founded, which has some real support there. Today I obtained an injunction signed by Judge Helen Tour against Cathedral Square Corporation. You'll find on your desks pages 32 and 33 from the 2019, the new tenants, the residence handbook. You will also find 1 page. The paragraph to note, or the topic to note, is the appropriate behaviors, so-called appropriate behaviors part. It went from 1 paragraph last year to 5 paragraphs this year. This is because I have been organizing the building and reporting on the organizing of the building on my television show, which Cathedral Square does not appreciate and which they are now threatening to evict me over. No suit has been filed, but what they've done in the lawsuit that I filed, each of you has a copy of that. They stated in the attached memo that if you didn't return the memo, why that would mean that you are giving up your lease as of February 1st. There was no receipt for the receipts for the handbook. They can claim anything they want, and any person they want has not returned the receipt, and therefore they have given legal notice of vacating. This is a clever form of self-help eviction. Judge Tour's order today stops that. There will be hearings on this. I urge you all to attend. There's a lot going on at Cathedral Square. I myself and other people helped the custodian of 15 years who was fired for asking for a raise from $14.02 an hour to $15 an hour. Also, the locks on the building were antiquated and falling apart, and passkeys to the locks were widely distributed for anyone who wanted to go through the apartments. I presume that cost them from $10,000 to $15,000 to do the 108 apartments, all the outside doors and so on. They don't like me there. I do not appreciate their attempt at this eviction and possible lockout. All I've asked for from the courts at this time is that these new rules not be enforced. I am going to distribute this residence handbook to the media. Doing that, in fact, is a complaining to anyone, complaining to this council. According to those pages, you're a governmental agency. You're a city council. It's a lease violation for me to be here and talking to you. Read it. It's in writing. Are these the type of people that you want running buildings in this town? They need a basic management change. I'm not pretending I can run the building. Somebody has to run the building. They do very well in taking care of people, but this whole thing started, and I'll wind up as quickly as I can, with their allowing some very violent street people into the building under Governor Scott's executive order, who under no circumstances would meet the admission requirements for tenants. And do you want to put frail elderly people in a building in which someone has been given an apartment whose career has been getting drunk and beating up women, including throwing them down a flight of stairs for which he went to prison? We have a schizophrenic who goes around at night, and he says he follows the commands of his voices. What are his voices going to tell him to do next? He was apparently thrown out of Decker Towers, 230 St. Paul, which I'm told that's a rumor, but I believe it. I've heard it from too many people. And there's more of these people coming in. A lot of the street people are okay. But something has to be done. And I am asking the intervention of this council and for this council to go over and see for themselves what is going on. A former member of the council,
Mr. Ruloff,
Timothy Ash, right after this, went to the executive director of the Vermont State Housing Authority in the past day and informed him of my lawsuit in this situation, and at the inspection on next Monday, I will be there and the Tenants Council will be there to meet with the inspectors from the Vermont State Housing Authority and HUD.
Thank you,
you
Mr.
for
Ruloff.
your patience.
Welcome back.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Item number 4, that will close out the regular public forum tonight. And we will move to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. Councilor Nodell?
I move to adopt the consent agenda and to take the actions indicated.
Councilor Nodell has moved to approve the consent agenda and take the actions indicated, seconded by Councilor Busher. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of moving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously, and that moves us on to item number 5, which is the deliberative agenda and public hearings on the 3 charter changes. The first one, 5.02, is the charter change to eliminate, phase out the business personal property tax. Is there anyone from the public? I don't have anyone in the sheets here in front of me, but is there anyone who would like to speak in this public hearing tonight on elimination of the business personal property tax charter change? Hearing none, we will close out that public hearing and move to the second public hearing. This one is 5.03, a charter change to strengthen and restructure the Downtown Improvement District. I do have a number of people sign up to speak on this one, and so we will start with Gene Bergman. Mr. Bergman, come on up. Welcome, Mr. Bergman.
Thank you, President Wright. Nice to see you all again. I'm Gene Bergman from St. Louis Street, and you all know me from various iterations. On January 7th, I submitted a detailed objection to the charter change you have proposed for the Downtown Improvement District, and I see that it's listed as a communication on tonight's agenda. Please consider that to be part of my testimony at tonight's public hearing. I understand that there may be some changes that are reflective of some of the points that I made there, and that should be part of that. But I have additional comments to make. I have 5 basic objections to your proposal. You're privatizing the control over the management of the district, a creature of our city government. I believe this is anti-democratic. You are creating a private industry, and 1 second, I should have more than 3 minutes, right? You do. Thank you.
Yes, you do.
You are creating a private entity to do what a public body should do, accomplish the listed public purposes funded by public tax dollars. This is wrong. Your proposal does not make the private entity subject to the Open Meeting Law or Public Records Act. It should be. Only owners of property who are directly charged the fees have the right to select the private directors, even though the cost of the fee will be passed on in whole or in part to all occupants as a cost of business. This gives these property owners an elite slice of both the general public and those in the district who are affected a disproportionate share of power that is out of line with the costs that will be borne by occupants, out of line with the public purposes of the district, and despite the fact that the fees are collected under the public taxing authority of the city. The board selection process for choosing private members is not spelled out. You are asking us voters to give you a blank check, unlike the current process, which was voted on by the voters and set out in the charter. 9 of the 13 of the voting board members are likely to come from an elite group, business owners. Regardless of how they are appointed, the private entity's board members owe a fiduciary duty to the entity, not the public, although the whole purpose is to perform public purposes with public tax dollars. Control over size of the district is privatized, despite the fact that the district is created to meet public purposes, and the charter currently gives the power to change the district's borders to the city council upon the recommendation of the majority of the Marketplace Commission, a public body. Your proposal places this power solely in the hands of property owners of the district. The private entity must conduct only 1 comprehensive review and report after 5 years, although the district may be in operation for possibly 10 years and can be extended beyond that. You give the private entity a veto power over what constitutes the base level of services that will be provided by the city. I believe that is my first major argument. Privatization threatens good-paying jobs, union jobs, undermines the city's progressive economic and environmental policies, and will enrich a private entity at public expense. There are 5 good middle-class city jobs besides the marketplace director's job that will be lost as city jobs, not likely to be replaced by union jobs with the same benefits like pensions or health care or paid leave, etc. The proposal could lead to the privatization of city services in public buildings, parks, and other public spaces within the entire district. This is a further attack on union jobs and benefits. The proposal gives a blank check to the private entity with regard to contracting. There is no requirement that contracting be done pursuant to a competitive bidding process or that it take into account the social policies of the city like the livable wage ordinance or environmental concerns. Your proposal undermines these hallmark policies. The proposal allows public tax dollars to be used by the private entity to buy assets that the private entity will own. Your proposal does not require the full cost of tax collection to be charged to the entity. You are subsidizing that cost for no good public purpose. The proposal will lead to gentrification and displacement and bars the use of the district's funds to mitigate those negative effects. Rents will rise due to owners passing on their taxes to tenants and due to increased property values. This will lead to gentrification and displacement. Your proposal prevents the use of those taxes to mitigate these bad effects. It will further divide our city into haves and have-nots. The proposal can lead to increased general city taxes. The proposal bars the city from using these taxes to accomplish any of the public purposes it would have the power to do if you didn't prohibit it. This includes paying for the maintenance of the enhanced capital improvements that the entity purchases that then become part of the infrastructure. I point to brick pavers or fancy streetlights. Their maintenance will come from general taxes. The proposal is rushed and incomplete. The transition is not detailed, including how the bylaws are adopted and private members are chosen. The proposal is riddled with vague, undefined terms such as enhanced services, core city services, the base level of services, and activation. The proposal fails to state how mixed residential commercial properties will be taxed. And finally, the district budget development or management process is not stated or required to be public. For all these reasons, I ask that you do not put this proposal on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bergman. I have Lori.
In writing so that you will have them as your record and not have to worry about remembering what I said.
Yeah. I have Lori Tucker up next, to be followed by Charlie Messing. Good evening, Ms. Tucker. Welcome.
That was a mouthful.
More pages of it.
Wow. I don't know what to say after all that.
Ms. Tucker, we need you to sit down and, sorry, but speak into the microphone so we can hear you and Channel 17 viewers can.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm just a little overwhelmed because I was really trying to understand some or part of what he had to say. Because as all of you probably know, I've been in business on Church Street and before that on Main Street for 40 years. And a part of the Church Street Marketplace Commission. And I certainly don't have all the technical knowledge that this gentleman seems to have. So that's why I was listening so closely to try and understand, and it was a lot. So my understanding of it is that this is not privatization. What we're looking for is for the downtown businesses, not just Church Street, which has had a very successful organization as far as I'm concerned. We want to include everyone in downtown with our promotions, with our keeping the streets clean and safe, and it really is the enhancement. We don't plan to replace the city services. We want to enhance the city services, and we want all of our businesses from the smallest to the largest to be working together, and we feel like if we're all working together, we can be more competitive and help each other in this challenging business world that we're in, certainly facing change in South Burlington, Williston, the internet. You're all familiar with those forces. So we want to stay current. We feel like this is a very positive move. I wish that I did understand some of the objections because as far as all the meetings that I've gone to, it feels like everyone's been working towards the common good. So I hope that you will consider voting for the charter change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tucker. Charlie Messing, to be followed by Jeff Nick. Good evening, Mr. Messing. Welcome.
Good evening, and thank you, councilors, Mr. Mayor, everybody. I'm against what I've heard so far about the Downtown Improvement District partly because I don't understand it, and I think everyone should have to understand it in order to be able to vote on it. I think that would be really good. I think that, well, birds have to sing and developers have to develop. I think that the developers would like to develop things, and I think that can be a contrast to Vermont. Vermont is like a brand. Vermont is a brand. There are trees, there's maple syrup, there's quiet, there's little towns rather than big towns, there's not much traffic rather than a whole lot of traffic. I think there are many things we can do to capitalize on Vermont being Vermont. I, of course, don't see high-rises, but I also don't see this district because it comes from the top down, and sooner or later somebody's going to be helpless in the face of it. One of the big things about Vermont and about the character of Burlington is that less is more. And if it stays quiet, it's nice. And if people know each other, it's nice. And I think developments and people who put together documents like this, and I do hope that it's intelligible by the time we see a final draft, I think these things are more is more. But in Vermont, less is more. And we have to keep space. And we have to keep people as people. And the more corporate it gets, and the more incorporated it gets, and if somebody private should own the public streets, doesn't sound like public streets. That's about it. I have not read the final draft, but basically I'm against the idea of having stuff all over that we don't even know what it is yet, but we're supposed to say we want it or we don't want it. So I would say I don't want it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Messing. Appreciate it. Jeff Nick is up next, to be followed by Adam Roof. Good evening, Mr. Nick. Welcome.
Good evening. Hi, thanks. Most of you know me. I'm Jeff Nick. I'm the chair of the Church Street Marketplace Commission. I've reported before that the Marketplace Commission fully supports this effort to expand the Downtown Improvement District. I think initially we're going to run the street, or whoever's on this new board, I think we'll take Church Street and pretty much do as it's run today. You won't see many changes there at all. One thing I would like to point out is our maintenance staff, who's done a tremendous job with this recent snowstorm. We want to make sure those folks are taken care of and treated in the same manner, and if not better than they are today. So we're very cognizant of that, and I'm sure we'll work out those details as we move forward if we're successful to work on this expansion. The one thing the additional fees will enable us to do, and I would call them fees, these are fees that the business communities willingly charging themselves to improve the downtown and district for the betterment of all of us. I wouldn't refer to these as public tax dollars, but that's another conversation. We'll initially focus on branding, marketing, and advertising for the entire district, not just the 4 blocks of Church Street. This will enable us to broaden our base, to make us more attractive, to get people to filter out to the side streets when they come downtown, and to really build a stronger business base, which will enhance all of downtown. As far as anything else this entity might do in the future, there's been talk of ambassadors program, there's been talk of parking management, maybe cafes on the side street, management of those. Anything like that will be really up to your discretion. The city council and will be fully in charge of what this entity might take on in the future. So I see our ability to do anything else is really in your hands. So as far as the public realm is concerned, you're in charge, really. So I wouldn't worry about that. One thing I was curious about, I noticed that there's been some discussion about the makeup of this new board. It might be 11 members, it's currently 9. And we have residents that are non-business owners come and go on the commission. It works out great. We welcome residents to be members of this commission. It's worked out well. I did notice that there was some discussion about having non-business owners and non-property owners to be on this commission, regardless of whether we're trying to prevent, I guess, business owners from being on there, or making sure that residents were not business owners. And I'm just curious about why that's a distinction made when it's not currently a distinction. I think it might be a little challenging to pull that off. I can envision somebody, perhaps a cart vendor that lives in town but happen to be a business owner that wouldn't be eligible to be on the commission. I could see a young lawyer become a law partner and all of a sudden had to step down because they were now a business owner. So I think that's a little problematic. I hope you consider that moving forward. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nick. Adam Roof.
City Attorney has said that I should actually have to sit in the hot seat, so I'm going to migrate.
Councilor Roof.
All right, thank you. I want to start by, wow, this is a different view. An intimidating bunch. I want to say first thanks to for Gene Bergman for...
Speak right into the mic, Mr. Roof.
Oh my goodness. We are lucky as a city to have had Gene as our attorney, because he is formidable, to say the least. Thank you for laying that out. I'm going to go through a couple of proposed changes. And I'm up here reading because we do need to have these read into the record, so that's the function that I'm playing now. I will say that the fine-tuning of the charter change proposal has been ongoing and fluid since our December vote. But before I'll start, I'm just going to make note that the documents that circulated are hot off the press, and I do have more for folks in the public, and all of these will be made public on the website that we have up for this, as well as on this agenda item on board docs. So I'll make sure that happens tomorrow. Okay, so here goes. These are some changes. Some of this will feel familiar to what Gene was talking about, because some of them came right from discussions with him, but certainly other conversations have informed some of these proposed changes. So number 1, in section 321A, we're going to revise or propose a revision of the description of the boundaries in line with the map that's in front of you. There is text that articulates the boundaries being contemplated, but I will not go through those. I don't think that I need to go through in detail the verbiage on that, but they are in line with what is being proposed in that new map. Add number 2 is to add to section 322A that the entity will be required to have a social welfare mission, and also will be not able to make contributions to any political candidate or party. Number 3, we're looking at the board of directors. It's been a focus for many people over the last couple of years, and certainly the last couple of weeks, but the new makeup is going from what's being contemplated now at 13 to 11, as well as 5 non-voting members. It would read as follows. This is important, so I'll go slow. 6 directors appointed by the City Council with mayor presiding, consisting of 1 resident who lives within the boundaries of the DID and does not own a business or commercial property within the DID. 1 resident who lives within the city of Burlington and does not own a business or a commercial property within the DID. 1 representative from a nonprofit organization located within the boundaries of the DID, and 3 owners of business or real property located within the DID. Next, the remaining board members, the 5 directors, will be selected by fee payers through a process to be established in the bylaws. I'll note that those bylaws will be subject to City Council approval, as would any amendments. Nevertheless, this cohort would consist of 1 resident who lives within the DID and does not own business or property, another resident who lives within the city of Burlington, same standards around owning property or business, 1 representative from a nonprofit organization, as well as 2 owners of businesses or real property within the DID. In addition, there's a little bit of a change here. 5 ex officio members from DPW, Parks, the Police Department, and us, the City Council. The change here is that a fifth ex officio board member would be from a social service nonprofit who serves the DID. I want to thank Councilor Pine for working diligently on some of these components. But moving on, number 4, in 322B1, add that amendments to bylaws, the governing board bylaws, would be subject to our approval. Number 5, add that the DID entity will be subject to and comply with. That's a quote that would be included, comply with the open meeting laws and public records laws. Number 6, the DID entity will be subject to and comply with the City of Burlington's livable wage ordinance. Number 7, re-letter proposed section 322C as 322D instead. 322C will be transition provisions. This will cover how the initial bylaws and management plan will be prepared and presented to us for approval. Number 8, we're moving along here. 324F will better define activation for the district. 325A, and back in the reference to, reference to 81. This is more of a typo, but make sure that we're defining non-residential properties accurately. 325A, further explanation of what it means to enhance, not replace, city services. There's been a call for more clarity around that. Number 11, delete the reference to agreed upon fee and add that the city will deduct the full cost of collecting the tax before passing the balance on to the DID. That's a clarity that we'll charge the DID a full cost of what it would cost us to collect taxes on their behalf. And finally, number 12, clarify that a comprehensive review will be required to occur every 5 years. Before I wrap up, I'll just note that these proposed changes are the result of a host of collaborative meetings with councilors as well as a range of community members and stakeholders for the sole purpose of working to garner the highest possible support from not just this council but the community. As we know, in a public development process, you can't make everyone happy. Certainly not claiming that this is what the proposal is doing. And while these changes may not be universally supported by all stakeholders, I think on measure, we are moving in the right direction and remain on track with finalizing details for our vote on the 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roof. So these are changes that will be proposed, changes to the DID charter change to go on the ballot. Okay, anyone else? That's everybody that I have in the queue here to speak on that charter change, DID. Anybody else who wants to speak? Hearing none, we will close out that charter change and move to the final one, which is the creation of a Department of Permitting and Inspections and make zoning administrator and planning director mayoral appointments. Anyone who would like to speak on that? I'm opening up that public hearing, and anyone who would like to speak on that charter change tonight? Going once, going twice. We'll close out that public hearing. And that completes the public hearings. We do, just so everybody understands, we do have another public hearing required by charter, at next Monday's meeting, the 28th, to fulfill the 2 public hearings that we have to have. So before we move on to the next item, I'm going to recess the City Council meeting to go into meeting City Council with Mayor presiding. So convene this meeting and turn it over to the Mayor.
Thank you, President Wright. I will call to order the City Council with Mayor presiding at 8:08 p.m. And the first item on the agenda is the agenda. Welcome a motion on it. President Wright.
Move approval of the agenda.
Excellent. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Busher. Discussion. All those in favor of the agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We have an agenda. And item number 2 is the consent agenda. I'd welcome a motion with respect to the consent agenda. President Wright.
Move approval of the consent agenda and take the actions indicated.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Paul. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to item number 3, which is the appointment to the Development Review Board for a 2-year term expiring June 30th, 2019. The floor is open for nominations. Councilor Paul. Sorry, Councilor Nodell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to nominate Zariah Hightower.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilor Nodell. Are there any other nominations? Any additional nominations? Councilor Dean.
Yes, I would like to place a nomination applicant Ravi Venkataraman.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other nominees? Any other councilors like to make a nomination? Councilor Pine.
I'd like to place a nomination in the name of Jenna Puglisi.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further nominations? Any further nominations? Okay, I'm going to close the floor to nominations. Are any of the applicants here and wishing to speak to the council? I see a couple hands, so come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Ravi Venkataraman. As mentioned in my application, I am the Assistant Zoning Officer and DRB Coordinator for the town of Shelburne, and as a Burlington resident would like to serve the city as a DRB member with your nomination. I would be happy to accept any questions from you regarding my credentials, my background, and anything that might be pertinent for your understanding.
Thank you. We do not typically take questions at these nomination events, but so is there anything else about, and we have all gotten your information in the packet, is there anything else you'd like to mention at this time?
Not at the moment. Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your interest. And welcome.
My name is Jenna Puglisi. I have been in Burlington now for 4 years. Prior to this, I was in the town of Stratton doing significant community work, and I'm looking to develop my community roots here in Burlington by giving back some of my experience that I accumulated in my town, time in a smaller town, and including permitting work that I did for the resort in southern Vermont and working for the Planning Commission there. So I would be excited by the opportunity to work with the City of Burlington in the capacity of the Design and Review Board.
Excellent. Great. Thank you for your interest. Is there any councilors who would like, is there any discussion? Councilors like to talk about the candidates? Councilor Pine.
There is an applicant who wasn't able to be here, but her name was put in nomination, who I believe serves already as an alternate on the board. The way I understand it is if that person is chosen for this commission, then that will open up an alternate position for another appointment, perhaps at our whatever that notice period is, but after we've done the notice and all that. So I just want to double check and make sure that's the case, as sort of a consolation prize for those who have showed up, who may not succeed just because this candidate has already served the city in this capacity, and I think that gives them a little bit of an advantage. I'm just mentioning that. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Pine. Were you asking me to confirm that, or were you asking for that to be confirmed?
I got a lot of heads nodding, so I think we
Okay,
confirm
yes, that is my understanding. Zariah Hightower is the current DRB alternate, and were she to move into this position, it would create an opening in that role. Is there any further discussion? Okay. I would just, especially with the council, indulge me in just giving a one-sentence explanation of my vote before I make it. I appreciate Councilor Pines raising this point because of Zariah Hightower's service. I will be supporting her for this full board membership, but we do very much appreciate the interest. And one of the things that makes this community great is that we have people who, almost every one of these that comes forward, we have numerous candidates who seek to apply, and many of our people serving on our boards who end up serving as outstanding board members are not appointed until their second or third time. So whatever happens, I'm not sure what's going to happen here tonight, but thank you for your interest and for coming here tonight to share your interest and speak to it directly. So with that, we will go to a vote. I will call out the candidates in the order that they were nominated. All those in favor of appointing Zariah Hightower to this position, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Congratulations, Zariah. Thank you for your service already, and seeing this, that the council is confident and excited about your service and stepping into a larger role. And again, thank you for your interest, and we hope that you will, in the very short order, consider applying for the vacancy that is going to be coming up as a DRB alternate. We'll get that advertised right away. Thank you. We'll move now to 3.02, which is the appointment to the Board of Registration of Voters. For a term expiring, kind of striking that we are appointing people this far into the future. This term does not expire until the year 2023. Longer term than any of us get to enjoy. I would welcome any nominees for this position. Councilor Busher.
I'll put in nomination the name Kate Baldwin.
Excellent. Are there any other nominations? Seeing no additional nominations, I'll close the floor nominations. Any discussion on the nominee? All those in favor of appointing Kate Baldwin to this position, please say aye.
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 Sounds unanimous to me. And congratulations, Kate Baldwin. I'm sorry, I don't see Kate here. So wherever you are, Kate, congratulations, and thank you for your interest in serving in this role. Without objection, President Wright, I will adjourn the City Council with Mayor presiding at 8:16 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I will now convene the Local Control Commission meeting at 8:15. And first item on the agenda is the agenda, and I recognize Commissioner Dean.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright. I would move to adopt our agenda as stated.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilor Roof. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have the agenda. We have our agenda. Councilor Dean, item number 2 is the consent agenda.
I would move to adopt the consent agenda, taking the actions as indicated.
That has been moved by Commissioner Dean and seconded by Commissioner Roof. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of adopting the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Roof and seconded by Councilor Roof. Moved by Commissioner Dean, seconded by Councilor Roof. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned, and we will move back to I will reconvene the regular meeting of the City Council at 8:17, and move to item number 6, which is committee reports. Any committee chair who would like to report tonight on committee activity? Councilor Shannon.
The Charter Change Committee again discussed council rules, and we will be coming to you with that. We're not sure if it'll be on the 28th because our agenda is fully loaded, but if not, then probably after that, up to you, President Wright. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Councilor Shannon. Councilor Roof.
Public Safety Committee will be meeting, when are we meeting? We're meeting on the 30th, room 12 here at City Hall, 5:30 p.m. And our only agenda item will be the Police Commissioner's report back to us on citizen oversight.
Thank you, Councilor Roof. Councilor Tracy.
Thank you. At the last Transportation Energy Utilities meeting, we had a pretty intensive focus on pedestrian safety in a couple of different ways. First, talking about the CCRPC and some of the projects that we might be working, DPW might be working with them on the coming year. One of the top priorities was the North Winooski Corridor study and continuing to work with them on that. I'm excited to see that continue to move forward among many, many other options, and there was a long list of needs. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we'll be able to get to all of them this year, but certainly others may be in the queue for coming years. We did also just talk about the Colchester, Barrett, and Riverside intersection, selecting an alternative to that that I think will greatly enhance pedestrian safety and work hand in hand with the new bridge that will eventually go in there, creating shorter crosswalks, more pedestrian visibility, and hopefully hopefully a good throughput in terms of traffic. And then we did have a more wide-ranging discussion about a number of different things having to do with pedestrian safety. And one of the things that I emerged from that conversation with was the realization that we still have to go back to Plan BTV Walk Bike and continue to look at elements of that that are not yet implemented, one of which specifically is Vision Zero, the idea that we can set the vision of having zero traffic fatalities or injuries in the city through constantly focusing on data, on making necessary changes. And I look forward to continue to work with councilors and the committee on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Tracy. Councilor Nodell.
President Wright, would you entertain a question about the Public Safety Committee report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I recently joined the Community Justice Center Citizen Advisory Board, and they have some business they'd like to bring to the Public Safety Committee. And so I will be sharing that with the chair of the committee, but I'm hoping that can be added to the agenda. It has to do with a request for proposal that the CJC plans to submit. Under that proposal, the current programs of the CJC would have added to them court diversion. So it's quite kind of interesting but complex proposal, and they're interested in coming to the committee. So if that could be added to the agenda, that would be appreciated.
Right. Thank you, Councilor Nodell. Don't need a response right now, right? Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Nodell. Any other committee chair? Councilor Pine.
Yeah, the Community Development and Neighborhood Revitalization Committee will meet on the 7th of February, 5:30. And the purpose of the meeting is to discuss the changes to the Early Learning Initiative and going forward what that program will look like, at least how it's proposed. So that's want to let folks know. I don't have a location yet, but it's 5:30, so stay tuned if you're interested.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Pine. Any other committee chair? Hearing none, we will close that item out and move to item number 7, which is City Council on General City Affairs. Councilor Busher.
Thank you. So I just want to just go back to the two committee and just say that residents that I represent are very concerned about safety, pedestrian safety. And one of the things that was discussed at that committee, which I think is very insightful, is the timeline between when someone makes a request for the addition of a flashing pedestrian light, and the time that it actually gets implemented. And that's a 5-year hiatus between the request and the time that you might actually have it. So what we asked for, so Mr. Mayor, I just want you to brace yourself. What we asked for was we wanted to know the number of requests in the queue. We also wanted to know the cost for actually installing one of these, the cost of the light and then the installation. And we wanted to know if we could potentially prioritize and change that timeline so that it wouldn't be that significant a hiatus. Motivation for all of this conversation certainly has always been pedestrian safety, but you know, we had that fatality on North Avenue. We've had so many near misses. And I think that we really want to know what we're talking about as far as how can we make our community safer. And as an individual who walks a lot and drives a lot, but doesn't bike at all, I'm really concerned at the bike walk report and the fact that for me, I feel like not as much attention has been given to pedestrian safety. And so I want to understand what we as a community should be looking at. And so I just wanted to let the rest of the council know that this started from residents in Ward 1, but I'm sure you have heard it throughout the city. And I'm hoping that we have some information, and then we have to decide what we're going to do with that information. But thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Busher. Councilor Jang.
Thank you, President. And to your point, Councilor Busher, about the fatality that took place in the New North End, that resulted to a 61-year-old from Winooski who passed in front of us. And I think the community is very upset. In general, they're very upset. But at the same time, I am not here to defend DPW, but the councillors in the New North End, I think we did it right. When something happened, we got together, we asked right questions, and that resulted to an investigation internally at DPW. And we did find that there were nothing that the city has done wrong that resulted to that person passing. But I think to your point, we need to now think about moving forward. Things happen, but let's think about moving forward. And to your point, Max Tracy, about Vision Zero, and I don't know, since the Walk Bike Master Plan was implemented, why there is not any advance in implementing Vision Zero and making sure that no fatalities will happen in the city of Burlington. And I think one thing moving forward also that we need to think about is the e-bikes are getting more and more popular, and they're getting more and more affordable, and they riding the greenway, they riding the bike path, they riding the sidewalks, and I think we need to come up with some type of study. And I would like to thank Councillor Mason, Councillor Roof, Councillor Tracy, as well as Councillor Paul, for all of us getting together to bring something forward so that we can be at the head of the curve. I think it is important as a city to think about things that way. And to your point again, you know, many residents, especially one, I'm sure he sent me articles. His name is Jared Wood. And there are a couple others, you know, they really concerned, especially the elderly. They very concerned about people walking and also the speed in which bikes and e-bikes and cars are going through. Yeah, but just what I wanted to say. And to the New North Enders, there will be more updates from the councillors soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jang. Any other councillor? Councillor Dean.
Thank you, President Wright. I would just like my council colleagues to know that the second annual Burlington Wildway Summit will be happening on Wednesday the 6th, which is also the same day that we'll be doing our implicit bias training later on in the afternoon. please look for an invitation. These will be going out to all of the city council members. Obviously, not everyone can attend because we will then have a quorum, and so we have to have less than the amount needed for a quorum. Just a question had come to me from Councilor Boucher about whether this is a public meeting. It is not yet a public meeting. We're just about, as an organization, ready to roll out a website to start doing public outreach. And so this is really just a confirmation opportunity for us to confirm where we have been in the past couple of years, make sure that everyone's still on board, and get ready for what promises to be a really exciting rollout for this organization. So please look for that invitation.
Thank you very much, Councilor Dean. Councilor Paul.
Thank you. I don't know if the mayor's going to mention this, but the mayor can mention it again because it's such good news that it probably is even better if two of us mention it. And that is that I did find out this morning that Frontier Airlines is now going to be flying direct to Denver from Burlington. So not only did they just recently announce that they were going to be flying to Florida, to Orlando, and opening up that for us. But now they're going to be flying to Denver, nonstop, 3 times a week. And they happen to have a lot of brand new planes. They'll be flying Airbus 320s, large planes, going nonstop to Denver. So we've now got so many nonstop routes that I've sort of lost track of exactly how many. I used to know how many. I could count them. Now it's hard to even count them because there are. We've got an airport that is pretty impressive. So, congratulations to Gene Richards and to the airport staff. Luring airlines and airline routes is no easy task, and this is great news for Burlington and the region. Thanks.
That is good news. Thank you, Councilor Paul. Any other city councilor on general city affairs? Hearing none, we'll close that item out. And item number 8 is city council president update. And really, I just would, what Councilor Dean just mentioned is just remind everyone that February 6th is the implicit racial bias training with Curtis Reed. It will begin at 4:30. Go to 9:30, and dinner will be provided. It's in room 12, and I do appreciate councilors working together on this. Unfortunately, I wish we could have made it work for every councilor. We did get to a point where we got everybody but one, and I apologize that we couldn't do all 12. But it's difficult with a 5-hour time block that was necessary. We had 7 dates that were put out by Mr. Reed, and I talked with another councilor about putting it out further into February, but again, there's no assurance that we would not face the same thing, which some councilors might not be able to make another meeting, and I think we did the best that we could here. So, February 6th, 4:30 to 9:30 in room 12. Thank you very much on that, and with that, I will move to item number 10, the mayor on general city affairs. Mr. Mayor, bring us all home.
Great, President Wright. I'm going to speak to 3 things tonight. I'd like to speak to pedestrian safety, since it's been a topic of conversation here at the end of the meeting, to the storm that we are coming out of, and to today's announcement about electric vehicles. I just want to make sure that it's clear, especially viewers who tuning into this conversation, that the city has been making investments in pedestrian safety at a level that goes beyond anything that we've seen in recent years over the last 2 seasons, and in large part because of the voter support of the Sustainable Infrastructure Bond. And I just want to make sure that the public is clear that we are replacing sidewalk at a rate of 3 miles per year now, which is about triple what the general historic average has been. The sidewalk system, of course, is the foundation of pedestrian safety. We are also looking at enhancements to that system because of the walk-bike master plan that this council approved by a large margin, and making progress against that. The quick build summer we just came through saw more intersections be improved for pedestrian safety than has ever happened in a season before because of this new technology that we are using now, this quick build technology. 9 intersections substantially improved. The rapid flashing beacons have only come to the city recently as well as a result of recent, in the last, I think, 4 or 5 years ago was the first time we started to deploy these rapid flashing beacons. They are a important tool and one that we will continue to use in places where it's appropriate. I do think it's important to note, and there's been some discussion, we will certainly report back with the report that was requested about whether there are ways to accelerate some of the implementation in some of these areas. Being willing to use local dollars as opposed to federal dollars, and state dollars, which is how we have typically done this, might accelerate some of these installations. But I think it is also important to note that these rapid flashing beacons are effective in part because they are not everywhere. They are not the right application for every intersection. They have to meet certain specific state specifications and warning standards that have to do with there being long distances between intersections and relative speeds on that. So there's a number of things that go in to the decision whether or not to deploy one of those beacons, and we'll try to capture that in the report back as well. The storm, another DPW issue. Want to thank the crews who have been working since Sunday, 16-hour days to try to recover from this major winter storm. I certainly know that there are frustrations after a storm like this, and there's definitely some areas of the city that are still underway, particularly sidewalks that still need to be cleared. This storm was of a magnitude that the plowing alone was not sufficient for the sidewalks. We had to make that kind of significant move to use snow blowers attachments to the sidewalk plows. When we do that, it dramatically slows down the removal of snow and makes it a multi-day process, so that I know there are still streets that are being snow plowed out now. I know there's some frustration about that. I also think there's less frustration about that than on some past storms because of the changes that the council has supported to allow the DPW to have some additional resources to communicate effectively during the storms. And we got significant positive feedback from the Front Porch Forum posts and Facebook posts that were made over the course of the storm with the public information officer we now have there. Finally, really exciting announcement today. In addition to the planes announcement, which we'll put out something on that tomorrow, but the announcement of today was about electric vehicles, which today I think is a real milestone in the transition of electric vehicles in this community to becoming something that is a real option for people. The Burlington Electric Department became one of the first utilities in the country today to announce a rate that applies to the recharging of electric vehicles when users recharge those vehicles during off-peak hours. That allows us to offer in a financially sound way that benefits all BED customers. It allows us to offer rates that are effectively as low as the equivalent of about 60 cents a gallon if you were talking about compared to a gasoline vehicle. What that means, if you translate that kind of charge over the course of the year, is that now if you live in Burlington and you take advantage of this rate and you charge during off-peak hours, you can save about more than $900 a year if you are the type of household that drives your car about 12,000 miles a year. That savings is in addition to the incentives that BED is offering upfront, at least at the time of leasing or purchasing. And I just think the team down at BED, this is another major step forward in them. They've kind of conquered the electrical sector in terms of decarbonizing that, sourcing all of our electricity from renewable sources. Now, in a way that I think few imagined was possible just a few years ago, BED is really helping to lead the transformation of the transportation sector and the decarbonization of the transportation sector, putting vehicles onto electricity powered by 100% renewable sources. And this is very significant in the fight against climate change in that the transportation sector is the one we've had the least answers for up until now. So congratulations to the folks at BED, and more important to all the Burlingtonians watching out there. Here is an opportunity to do right by the planet and save considerable dollars over time. Call, email, go to the website for BED to find out more details. Thank you, President Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn at a very reasonable 8:37. Moved by Councilor Dean, seconded by Councilor Roof. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.